What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to IT Security Labs. And this is yet another week. We have another machine, and this one is a really good one. I made this machine specifically for those who are getting ready for the OSCP, just to give you an idea of what to expect as you go through your preparations, or if you have gone through the OSCP. I think you can agree the methodology that you need to approach is going to work the same way. And if you are just interested in ethical hacking, welcome. Tonight I'm going to show you how to scan this machine, how to enumerate some of the ports, and how to get access to the system. Then after getting the access to the system, we will then also privilege escalate and then show you how to really attack a machine and also get on the system. So this is a really great way to learn ethical hacking if you haven't done so. Colin, BT, and Wanda, it's good to see you, brothers. Thank you very much for joining tonight. This is very exciting for me. We do this every week, every Sunday at 9 p.m. Central Standard Time. So in addition to the attack, I also do some detection, because at the end of the day, really, we are not in the business of just attacking, right? We also want to be able to detect. You need to understand what network traffic looks like when you do the attack. So we will try to track down our attack traffic at the end here, so I can show you what your reverse shells are doing for the blue team. So this is going to be very exciting, like I said. So if you haven't, please download the machine and then you can follow along with me. It only works in VirtualBox. I've never tried it in VMware Fusion, but there's a link to the Google Drive where I uploaded it, and then we should be able to work with that. All right, so without wasting a lot of time, because I'm not in the business of talking, I like to actually start the attack. Let's sign into our Kali Linux. This is what you do when you doing a pen test, or even in the OSCP. You stay organized. I have a machines directory. Then this one is named GoofDuff. This way, I can actually put all my information and everything related to this machine in this folder. So staying organized, super important, especially as you work on machines and you're stealing things, you're putting things, you need everything to be in the same location. So that's the first thing. Then after that, I just try to do a simple ping 192.168.38.138. In the OSCP, you're given machines, and sometimes they don't respond to ping. So ping is just what I do for my lab environment, but sometimes machines don't respond to ping. So in that case, you need to do a -pn in your Nmap scans. So that way it will work. So right now my machine is responding to ping, which is really awesome. Colin is asking about the Elastic SIEM. Elastic SIEM, you can try it for 7 days in the cloud. Right now I'm actually using Security Onion, and Security Onion gives me Kibana access, which is really good. And Security Onion is free. I have a video on this channel where I show how to set up this lab. Like, I think I have 12 videos that do that. All right, let's do an Nmap scan here. -sv sc 192.168.38.138. Let's do all ports, by the way, so that we can actually see everything. You can run auto recon like I showed you last week. Auto recon is probably the best way to do that if you are going for the OSCP, but auto recon is not good for demonstrations like this, because then you will not know what it's doing in the background. And if you're just beginning, it's good to see these commands here, because then we can talk about this Nmap scan here. Is going to run a service version scan, so it will tell us versions of services as it finds it. And this SC here will run default scripts, and we like to run default scripts to see simple easy wins. But then this P option will show us all open TCP ports. This does not do a UDP port, so you need to do a separate UDP scan. If you run auto recon, it will do it for you. Then if you see any funny UDP stuff, maybe you can run SNMP walk or something like that on UDP ports most of the time. But for our purposes today, I'm just going to do a TCP scan. But know that for a full enumeration, you either run auto recon and it will do a UDP scan for you, or you should run -su for UDP scan so that you can find out, because sometimes things are hidden in UDP ports. So you leave the exam thinking, oh my God, there was nothing to exploit. and we ask you, did you actually do a UDP scan? And you're like, I didn't. Maybe that's where things will be. All right, so as you can see, I mean, these scans do take a while. I'll let it run. Let's go and look at our Security Onion. See what it looks like as the scan is happening. Remember, this is just a very, very noisy scan. We are not trying to hide from anybody here. So our scan is not as intelligent as it should. If you go to Nmap here, Nmap scans do generate a ton of traffic. Look at this. Nmap scripting engine is called, Nmap is so dumb, it will even put like in the user agent, the user agent Nmap. So of course, detection teams know that, so they will actually detect Nmap right away. So if we look here, here's one that I actually had. It actually says Nmap scripting engine user agent detected here. If you look in the network data decoded, Nmap will put in the user agent field, this is what's getting us caught here, Nmap scripting engine. So if you are doing something and you want to hide, maybe write your own simple bash script that does a TCP scan, or you can find some people's scripts online that do the same things. All right, it's still going. So that was one. Let's also look at other alerts here. Let's go to Kibana actually. Under alert. So this is the same data, just different views. I want to show you how right now as we are scanning, we are spiking the number of events. This will deviate from the normal. So if a team has baselines, they will be able to tell right away. Like right now, you see, soon after 9 p.m. when we started, the spike just went up. Baseline was lower down here, like 1 or 2 maybe. Then all of a sudden, it's spiking here. So, like I said, Nmap, not the best tool when you're trying to hide. But of course, it works for us when you're trying to do things. You can view the same stuff here. I bet this is all Nmap stuff. All right. So while my scan is running, it's a full TCP scan, so it will take for a little bit longer. And Scott, it's good to see you, man. Thanks for joining. You should make a video on that Security Onion setup stuff. Next time, I'll probably run this ahead of time so we don't have to wait for it, because it's taking a little longer. So since it's running, I already know I can do a netcat on 192.168.38.138. I can do banner grabbing here. Let me see if 80 is there. Nothing. All right. Oh, there we go. It just took a little while. So the first thing that you are going to notice here is you are going to be bombarded with a ton of ports, or maybe very few. But right away, if you get bombarded with a lot of ports, it's not the end of the world. I mean, you can methodically go through these ports and, within reasonable doubt, move on. The one thing that you need to do is look at a port, looks like, and it smells like there's a vulnerability. You try time box, 15, 20 minutes, you don't see anything of interest, you move on. A lot of people, when they get caught in rabbit holes, is because they find one simple port and then they go on and on and on and on, and it's not going anywhere. There are these things called rabbit holes. If you're going for the OSCP, like this version of FTP here could be a rabbit hole. Like I see that we have FTP like that. We searched for this one last time. You can search for that and say exploit. I mean, I've never tried this, but there's a buffer overflow here. You can try that. If it doesn't work, move on. I think that's why a lot of people end up failing. But here's a buffer overflow that you could have tried and found out maybe it doesn't work. So if you see a lot of ports, first thing is it's okay. You can definitely get to every single one of them if you have to. So since we have FTP open, first thing is you don't move on away from FTP anonymous. I mean, that's a crime against humanity. You need to interrogate this FTP. And one thing that you need to know is FTP is not always running on 21. I just happen to have left it here. I actually wanted to move this one to port 3500 just for fun. Next time I'll actually probably do something like that. So FTP does not always run on 21. People can run it on port 9000. It doesn't matter. If you see FTP with anonymous, you sign in. So it's FTP anonymous. No password. First thing I do is when I get there, I see dir. So I see, desktop and everything. So I'm going to show you a simple trick that if you're bombarded with FTP and they give you a ton of documents, like document after document after document, you don't have to CD to each and every one of these and search. That will take you forever. I mean, there will be like directories inside of directories inside of directories. So this is what you do. You exit out of there. Go to a nice directory that you work in. Let's make it a directory here. Say FTP. This is where we're going to store all of our loot, things that we're going to steal from that FTP directory. And we're going to use wget here. So we can say wget. And we want to get all the directories that are in there and their stuff. -R. So we want to steal everything recursively. Make sure that your machine, of course, has enough storage space, right? Don't just be downloading things when you don't have a lot of space on your Kali. Then the remote is FTP 192.168.38.138. So I'll be writing this command. If this is the first time seeing a command where we use wget to loot from FTP, I would definitely add this to your notes, because it's a very helpful command. You see, I just downloaded everything that was in that directory on the victim machine, and you get an IP address as a folder. Now, once you get in here, you now have all the folders that are on the remote server. Then what do you do with this? You can do something like this and keep saying ls, or there's just that, then you get out. But let's be more intelligent here, right? And this is why something that I think you probably benefit from attending these live streams of mine. We need to understand a few things. As an attacker, what am I looking for in these? I'm looking for configuration files that end with .conf. I'm looking for passwords. I'm looking for usernames. And how are those things saved in the, if there's a file that contains a password, it will have the word password. It will maybe have the word pass. You have a username. So what we can do is we can search recursively using bash on these things for simple things that we can get, like usernames and password. So let's grab for the word, let's grab recursively, meaning go in every directory and look for the word password. That's what you want. You are looking for things like passwords. So grab the word password from anything that is in there. So put a star here for every directory. And it went through every single one of these and found out that there's a file called pass inside of the FTP directory, and the password, it says password and that. This right here is going to be gold for you. That will distinguish you from somebody who's just going through every directory searching. You need to do these things. Then you can just search for star.conf. If there are any configuration files, they'll show up there. You can search for pass. Sometimes you can search for things that are zipped, like GZ for backup, or actually star.back, BK or BAK. If you inform yourself, like, okay, what would be interesting for me? You can even look for the word like key, because API keys could be in there. If you don't find any of that, you can then maybe go and maybe interrogate this manually. But until then, try to be smart about searching this, because if you spend 20 minutes going through every single directory here, because your motto is I'm going to enumerate as much as I can, that's 20 minutes that you would have saved if you used simple grep commands. So we found out here that we have a file called pass.txt. We also have a cms.back.zip. This is a zipped file backup of the installer. And actually, this is common where an administrator will be installing something on the system, and then they keep the original install files somewhere on the system because they always want a copy of them. And here you are. If you unzip this, you'll notice that this is the Umbraco server. So that's probably a hint. You won't see anything in here other than the server that was installed. But we also have the pass here. So we can cat this. Install notes. Do not forget username, that, and password this. You'll be taking screenshots right now. You'll be taking notes saying, I want to make sure that I know that. And here is another thing too. If you see credentials, there are two things that can potentially happen. Those credentials can cripple you. You might go around saying, oh, I need to find out where to use these credentials. They might be useless. They might not be useless. So just because you saw a username and password somewhere doesn't mean that that's now your attack point. You're now going to look for where to use them. Sometimes you don't have to use them. They're just there as a decoy. And if you fall in the tunnel vision of saying, I found a username and password, I need to use them somewhere, you might not enumerate as much as you would. So keep these as, oh, I found a username and password. I might or I may use them. If you find a login port, anything that is something to log in, try those credentials everywhere. And in this case, we found that we have username and password. All right, so that was the first thing. I hope I'm dropping some knowledge that will help you as you do enumeration, especially for FTP. A lot of people don't know how to properly and smartly go through it. There are multiple ways, but this is what has been working for me. Then, of course, look up the version and see if there's an exploit out there. Chances are I've never tried this one. It might work. So if you got it in using that FTP version, let me know. I left it there because it's supposed to be a decoy as well to waste your time a little bit, because that's what happens with the OSCP. They will leave silly things like this just for you to realize and be smart about moving on. All right, then we have port 80. So we can go to port 80 right away. Let's see here. 192.168.38.138. This is very common for administrators who are lazy. They'll leave this default IIS page. In any ideal world, you should turn this off, right? I mean, there's no need to run this unless if you really, really need to. So when you see this, what do? You go and run GoBuster just in case there's a directory somewhere here. So before you move on, you run GoBuster, you run Nicto against that. Even though it's a default page, I'm just going to say derb for now. But GoBuster is more comprehensive. I'm just going to demonstrate with derb. Let's see if we can bust some directories there, brute force to see if there's any directories. In this case, for the sake of our time, I will tell you there is no directory here, but it will be foolish of you to see a default IIS page and say, oh, there's nothing, and then move on. There might be a directory here that is actually running a real service. So run a GoBuster, run your Nicto on this port as well. And once that is done, you can move on. But for now, I'm going to cancel it. I'm just telling you, you need to look at everything that comes back from GoBuster here. All right. So moving on, IIS, there's nothing there. All right. Then RPC is a very common service on Windows. If you have never attacked Windows, or if you have attacked Windows, you know RPC is notorious for opening a ton of port. There's enumeration for RPC you need to go through. Sometimes you do see information about usernames and passwords and things like that. But this port here is also usually accompanied with these. So these all come from the same service. And you knowing about that eliminates the noise. So you know, oh, I have RPC ports, MS RPC ports that are there. So you do your enumeration on RPC, but also it just limits the amount of like stress that you might have thinking you have so many ports to go through. Enum for Linux would do that for you. Let's see. So, but let's move on to the more interesting ports here. Because here's another one. So we have 2256. This is a free switch port. I wanted to send you on a goose chase again. So you can go and try to find out how to interact with Microsoft free switch. This is common as well for people to just leave some random services. I was testing a vulnerability in free switch, ended up not working, but I left it in there just for fun. So you can go and try to figure out how to get into free switch as well. MySQL, this is interesting. If you see unauthorized, that means that you might not be able to get in there, but the fact that there is MySQL, they should be in your back of your mind. If you break into this system, you need to now see if you can sign into this database locally, or you can port forward this port to your machine later. Biggest takeaway here, when you see a database that's open to you, just because you cannot get to it right now does not mean that once you break into that system, you cannot still try to sign into this database. So just because it says unauthorized for now, doesn't mean that you cannot get into it. So keep that in mind. Then of course, remote desktop here, you now know that you will need to sign into remote desktop. Chances of finding a vulnerable remote desktop service, I mean, it's still possible. You might be running an old RPC, but this is just so you know how to access this system if you need to. You should be able to do most of what you want from the terminal though. All right, so this is the free switch here. I'll show you a little bit what you would have done if you found free switch. I'll grab this. This looks like something very distinct to this service. Or you can just use search exploit for that, but I'll just go here. And as you can see, this, of course, will be very enticing. You're like, oh, there's something interesting for free switch. And you come in here and maybe try to run this. This is another rabbit hole that was supposed to stress you out a little bit. But this will not work for us. It's a simple Python script. You can try it, download this, and run the exploit. It will not work. At least last time I checked, it didn't work. But maybe somebody fixed it. All right, so we are past the free switch stuff. This is another WebSocket here related to free switch. So you see, if you have enumerated something, you need to now learn, oh, I tried free switch, I need to move on. Then 8021 is an FTP proxy. This one will not work because there's root rejection there. But of course, if you have never seen that, you can do some enumeration. But this one is just an FTP proxy. Same as 8081 as well. That was another rabbit hole. So being able to just see a bunch of ports, of course, in the exam, you'll not be doing what I'm doing right now. We'll be here all night if I went after every single port. But right now, I wanted to raise our attention to this seemingly innocent port here on 9450. First of all, this should spark interest in you. Like, for example, it's HTTP that's running on 9450. Oh, now that's interesting. Who thought that was a smart idea to try to hide through obscurity by changing the port for HTTP? Why? This time we actually don't have any headers or anything that we can read, but we can visit this port. And surprise, surprise, we are actually running a service here. So the first thing that you do is you probably try to go all the way to the bottom, see if there's a version here. Usually it's like in small text all the way at the bottom here, like whatever this Umbraco version 2 or something, you don't see it. You don't see anything really. It doesn't talk. This thing doesn't talk. There's an open here. I hope as an attacker you are smart enough to know that you have to click this. Or you can look at the page source, see if it leaks like version information. That's what I'm usually looking for. Or any comments. Don't expect any comments from any machines that I make though. I don't put silly things in comments. I actually hate that. I think that's a cheap way of attacking machines, relying on developers being silly and putting comments in there. I mean, it happens. You still need to check for it, but that's just not something that's exciting for me. All right, so now we are greeted with a page. Under the exam pressure for the OSCP, it's possible to forget you did get the credentials. Or if you did not enumerate FTP enough, guess what? You're not getting in here. Because what you can try to do is, here's the name of this thing. Default login. You owe it to yourself to do this if you did not have any credentials. And you might see default credentials somewhere. But of course, this one doesn't actually have that. So you need to look for default credentials from the internet, and sometimes you'll be able to get in, or you can try admin. In this case, it's actually asking for an email. And guess what? We found these credentials last time. And the password was this one. If you remember from the FTP. All right. When you get in any application, your first job is to start moving around. Figure out, okay, what's up with this thing? What is it used for? I encourage you to go and find the website, like the manufacturer or, the creator for this tool. Try to understand what does it do. You don't have to be an expert, but at least knowing like what this does might help you. In this case, you just need to click around. Okay, there's a media here. Does this thing take any extension? Is it PHP, HTML? What can I do with this thing? So you click around, you find the content. One thing you should be looking for is, can I get to the users? Here's users. You might find hashed passwords in here. Like we know the password for this administrator that we got in. What if there was another person who was in here and you find the password hash? You might just crack that and try to sign in right away. So here's the admin. They don't store password hashes here, unfortunately. You go to the settings for this thing. Does it take any uploads? Here, there's nothing. This is just the default install for the site. And in the media, you might be able to upload an image. Can you trick this thing into accepting a PHP reverse shell? In this case, it's Microsoft, so an ASP reverse shell. You click around and you try to do your best. But also, if you are not too smart, you might not click the help. This is very, very important because it will give you things like this. So now you found there's a version information here. We love versions as attackers because this will tell us more about this service. Now I'm armed with the name of the service and a version. And I can go and see, just type exploit. You can do that and it will give you the results here, or we can just choose to stay within Kali. Let me make sure that I'm typing the name correctly. Usually I remove the version. And there we go. We obviously want to stay away from Metasploit. Metasploit is not exciting. If you get a lot of results here, remote code execution is going to be the best bet for you because it's nicer and it's a faster way to get there. So I always try remote code execution first, especially if the version matches correctly. If it doesn't, it will not work. So what do we do here? We found remote code execution here. So using Sexploit, working inside of my directory, that's why having directories is really important. Let's get this one down here. Using -m from Sexploit, it will download that file over here. And I don't like to save my exploits with random numbers. Let's say yes for now. So I will do a move. The name of that exploit, then I'll actually name it exploit. This is just me. You might be fine working with a numbered Python. I'll name it exploit.py, but this time I'll put a 1 here because I already have 1. Now I know I have an exploit I need to try. I don't think this is 100%, but at least I'll try this one. That is what I'm going to do. I'm starting with this one. And I have to confess, when I made the machine, I actually did not Google. I just went with the one from Sexploit. And I didn't realize it made my machine super easy because there's this GitHub page here. So if you went through this GitHub page, the machine was way easier for you than when I was making it. This GitHub page here makes it almost like mindless to attack the machine. Mostly for the OSCP, you will not see this. I mean, they will not give you an exploit that is this easy. So let's do it the intended way. This was, of course, for you as an attacker, a good thing for you that you found this, and a terrible thing that I just relied on my Sexploit because I grabbed this one. And first thing that I found was I need to be able to read this exploit. And if you know anything about me, is I'm huge at being able to understand these exploits. I mean, I don't have to be like an expert in exploits, but I need to know what is it doing, which parts of these exploits can I manipulate, and what's up with that. So looking at our exploit here, it's using beautiful soup, and also request. So this is good to know because if you're running exploits from the internet and you run this thing and it doesn't work and it's complaining that you don't have request, what do? You go and fix your Python. A lot of people who are not familiar with Python, they'll run a public exploit from the internet and it just starts complaining about modules not being loaded. And because they are not familiar with it, they just think it doesn't work. But the truth is, just know like, hey, I can fix, if it starts complaining about any modules, you need to be able to fix that very quickly. And if you can't, that's what is going to distinguish you from other attackers, right? Oh yeah, thank you for that. I needed to show you the original one first before the one that I edited. So in here, right away, you notice that here's a payload that is going to be sending. And in this payload here, this is, when people say payload, this is what we might need to be interacting with. So looking at this, even though if you don't understand a lot of this XML, NS stuff, here's where the C script starts, and the string that it takes is, I'm looking, this is a command, and right now it looks like it's blank. Then it's running this command by executing calc.exe. A lot of proof of concepts will do this silly thing where they just pop up a calculator because it's the easiest and least harmful thing. If you have never read an exploit in your life, you are in for a treat, because if you do not know, like, oh, where do I inject my stuff in here to make this work, and this is your first time looking at this, you'll be like, this doesn't work, because your thought probably is just run this thing and hope it works. Right away, this is where you can put a command. Right now it's calling calculator.exe. Because I've done this so many times, I know if I replace calculator.exe, I can put PowerShell.exe here. Then I can put a PowerShell command here. I can replace calc.exe with cmd.exe. Then I can run a command from the command line here. These two here, right away, being able to tell, oh, this is where I can put a command string here, is gold. Next, of course, it says authenticated, so we need to put a login, username, and password here. So let's actually edit this thing. So for the login, it's .local. The password was supposed to be the host. All right. So right now, I'm not sure if I need to put the HTTP or just the IP address, but let's do 9450. Don't forget the port. Does it take that or just the IP address? I need to find out about that one in a second. Let me remove this because it's highlighting it already. Let's see how it's injecting the host stuff here. Okay, so it looks like it doesn't put HTTP for me. So let me put it back. All right. Before I save, let's also make this into something interesting. So if you use the exploit from GitHub, you might have missed out on an opportunity to play with this. So instead of calc, I'm just going to do PowerShell. Actually, command. Then the command, I found this from a proof of concept actually. You can do command here /c ping. Let's do a ping to our machine here. Let's ping our Kali Linux machine. 146. And if you're getting lost here, that's fine. We'll get you there. All right, so we're going to do a ping here to our machine since this thing doesn't actually give us any information. So I'll try with a ping, and thanks God, it actually needs HTTPS. It will not work. I actually remember that from testing it. All right, let's escape. What is this going to do? This is going to try to ping my machine, this one. So this is exploit 1. And this is the one that I used when I was testing. It's the same thing, same information. I just want to do cross-checking. I used HTTP here. It shouldn't matter. I wonder why I had white spaces there. All right, so here's my ping to my machine. I'm calling command.exe. Why am I doing this? I want to ping so that I know that this thing actually works and I'm not wasting my time. That's a very, very important thing to do here. So if I do quit from there, I'll try both exploit 1 and this exploit and see if it works. So before I run the exploit, let me do a TCP dump to see if my ping works. I saw this being used as a way to verify exploits all the time. TCP dump, what was the command? -I. My Ethernet is, my port is ETH0. If you're in the exam, of course, this should be your tunnel. And I want to see ICMP because that's my ping. All right. So if my ping works, I should see them responding here. Let me fix my exploit. And dealing with exploits is going to be one of the headaches that you will have. Like what I'm doing right now. What am I missing here? It shouldn't say that. 192, 168, 138, 9450. Let's see. What changed? Something changed. I don't know where. Was it's highlighting here? It's everything HTTP. Okay, let's try. This is in Python 3. I'm going to run exploit 1. Yeah. This right here happens all the time. I would be lying to you if I said you go to the exam and you run your exploits and they work. You need to now do this. And I appreciate Wonder. On the login name, I'm missing a quote. And this happens with exploits and they might be annoying. Oh, I see. There we go. I was silly. Now it will like that. And this is real life, people. This happens. You mess with the syntax in here, you put extra spaces, you put a tab, you remove something. The exploit will start spewing errors in front of you. And if you cannot bounce back from those quick enough, things will not work. Okay, let's run our exploit again. Remember, I'm just testing if it will actually ping. And if it pings, I should see responses here. If your exploit works, you are in business. You should celebrate because now you know you found your way in. And that is the hardest thing. Privilege escalation for the OSCP is nothing. I did not have any problems with that. It's finding your way in that will take you a long time. All right, now the exploit is running. All right, so it's running. What are we expecting? Responses here. So as you can see, I actually had modified my ATOs, but I got responses. At this point, if you're in an exam or if you're just testing on somebody's system, you should celebrate because now you know you are executing things on this system. And a simple ping like this will work if ICMP is enabled. All right, now let's go back. Let's go to exploit1.py because that's the one that we want. Now that you can control this right here and this, it just depends on what you're comfortable with. I like PowerShell. I used to, work with PowerShell a lot as a sysadmin, so I'm comfortable there. So I go for PowerShell. If you like just a regular command line, you can do the same. Let's use Nano. I think it presents better. All right. So now we need to manipulate this here. First, I'm going to change this line here that says command.exe to PowerShell. That's just my drag of choice. You can put whatever you want there. I mean, you can leave it to command, not whatever you want. Ping is not going to help me. There's no money in pinging things. So I need to start bringing PowerShell commands here. And whatever I put in here, be careful as you modify this. You are going to have a lot of fun with syntax again. If you start messing with this syntax again, every time when I waste a lot of time with these exploits, it's because I copy and paste and it modifies things. Nano is more reliable for me. You have seen me last week. I'm going to use, I'm a one-trick pony. If it works, I use it all the time. What is the PowerShell command that is going to give me reverse shell without putting netcat there, without, experimenting with netcat or other ways? I can run a simple PowerShell one-liner right here. Or, there's whatever you want to do. Let's do what we already know. This nishang here. I'll explain what this is doing here in a second. If this is your first time watching my streams, you're like, what is that? And I will explain. But if you have seen it, you're probably like, oh, not again. This is a PowerShell command that I have seen and it works all the time. And here's what it's doing. It's going to execute PowerShell exec, then it will run the bypass switch so that if PowerShell execution policy is enabled, it doesn't tell me to get the hell out. Then I'll do -x. Then I usually use this new IEX new object here, web client, to download things. Or you can use setutil here. It also works. I like this one because most of the time setutil might not be on the system. Then I will point to my machine. Then I have a PowerShell here that is named shell1.ps1. And this will run the shell 1. So what is shell 1? In the nisheng directory, you should go to GitHub, look up this nisheng if you haven't done so. In the shells here, we have a PowerShell invoke PS1 that works wonders without creating a lot of headaches for you. And I'll tell you why I choose this one over netcat. There's more room for errors in trying to transfer netcat than running a netcat command after that. First of all, you might not be able to execute executable files. And second, you might not have permissions to write to whatever directory that you are falling into. This right here does not actually write this file to the victim. This just executes it. So let's look at that again. This is what I save as shell 1. And this is the nisheng PowerShell script. If you have been doing OSCP practice, you probably have seen it. It will just run the invoke PowerShell TCP, then you can specify a port. And this is the full command that you can run, replacing this here with your attack IP address. You can invoke reverse TCP, then the IP address of your machine on port 4444. So what I do, let's quit that. What I do is I would copy this to my working directory. Again, one more reason why you probably want to keep a nice working directory. Actually, I don't want to modify that. I would copy from nisheng that, then I'll name it shell3.ps1. I don't like to keep things with weird names. So it's the same thing, of course, that I just copied here to this directory. You know, when you talk and type at the same time, you have so much fun. Wait, what kind of games is this? I swear I know how to copy things. Copy from such root. All right, let's fix our copying. That's the name, so I don't know what he's talking about. Invoke. All right, I'll save you from the pain. Let's copy this. I'm not having that. All I'm trying to do is copy it here to this working directory. Really? Okay, what the hell? Whatever, I will copy it here. And it's the same as this shell1.ps1, shell.ps1. The ps1. And I'll show you what I change here so you know. It's the same exact script. I don't change anything in here. Nothing fancy happens, except I take that reverse shell line all the way at the end. This invoke PowerShell TCP reverse IP address. Then I put my attacker IP address and I put the port that I want to go to. So in fact, let's change this port to something that is more interesting. Here, when you're dealing with ports on the OSCP, you want to use ports that are already open on the system. You don't want to use your random 444 ports. You will not get reverse shells. You want to come back and actually use ports that are open. So 21 is a very common port that people like to use. I will not put 21 here because for my analysis later, it's hard to find. So actually, I would put 5353. But 5353 also is hard to find when I'm trying to find it in my intrusion detection system. 5544. So that is not the boring 444. All right, so that shell here is what I'm going to be trying to invoke using my PowerShell in this command here. So how do we do that? There are multiple ways. I showed you the one-liner that I have, but I also have another one. In this command here, let's just do invoke web request. PowerShell is really great because it understands these shortcuts here. You can say, hey, invoke the web request to download that PowerShell script, but it will execute at the same time. So if you invoke web request, let's see. I'm not typing this whole thing. I'm going to paste it in there. So let me remove this. Put a space. This is where you need to be extremely careful. Before I paste, let me make sure. If you mess with the syntax, you'll be fighting that for a while again. All right. Here's what I'm going to be doing. I'm saying IEX invoke web request is the same as the other one, the download string. Then it will say, oh yeah, thanks. I was not going to the right folder. HTTP. Then it will go. In this case, it's saying 999. Let's change that. I'll leave this to port 80. And I need to put my Kali Linux IP address here, 192.168.38.46. All right, so IEX invoke web request. This is just going to download my shell. You can use setutil here, that's fine. But here's the secret sauce. When you use, no, it's not basic. When you use this, you can say, okay, just use basic parsing. And what this is going to do is it will go and try to find our shell.ps1, then use PowerShell's basic parsing, and it will run that script the moment it gets there. And when it runs that script, it will do what? It will phone back to me on port 5544. So all I need to do after editing this and putting this here is host an HTTP server where this shell 1 is, start a listener, and with an HTTP server and a listener, I can run this script and pray that it will work. If it doesn't work, you keep coming here and fixing it until it works. And that again requires persistence and knowing what you're doing, because it does not work every time. You need to mess with it. If this doesn't work here, I can always use setutil. Heck, I can even use wget in PowerShell if I wanted to. So right now, let's keep it this way. Of course, I'm trying to use wquit in nano, and that's not how this works. All right, so now that we know that that's what's happening, we need to execute that here. We need to create a Python simple HTTP server, Python 3 on 80. I use 80 because I'm lazy. I don't want to work. Sometimes if you are unable to execute things from your HTTP server, you need to use ports that are open on this server again. I don't know why they do that but it's Windows Windows firewall that might block you. So I'm hosting there. I need to start a listener here. cat -lv and p 5544. Some people like to do the lrep. For Windows, I find that it usually works, but you can catch your shells. You can use MS of Venom. You catch your shells however you want. This is how I do this one. Then after that, we go to here, then we do Python 3 exploit.py. No, it's exploit1.py. I want to show you how this can make your life fun. So this looks like it worked on the first try. Usually it doesn't. You get a bunch of errors here. So it's hanging here. First, you check your HTTP server. Did it work? If you don't see a 200 here, it didn't work. And right now, it will probably not work, and we need to go and fix it. And being comfortable in knowing that shell's exploits will not work on the first try, and being patient and not panicking and not thinking that your life is about to end is a very, very good skill. Like right now, it's not working. I can tell because it didn't come and get my my exploit there. So what do? I verify my IPA. What's my IP address? 192.168.38.146. Did I put that IP address in here? See, I swear, I'm just bad at this. I did not plan for it to fail, but it's good that it failed. I put 46 instead of 146. So let's put 146. And we do it again. Looks like it's working. We go here. We see a 200. Okay, that's good news. That is good news. So your HTTP server is always going to be your telltale sign. So stage 1 worked. Did we get shell? Yes, we did. So if this worked, but your shell did not come back, what do? You go back and you figure out why didn't it run. So in this case, we got our shell. First thing right away is, where am I? And that is not exciting because I'm just the website user, and that's really, really not cool. We don't like being this generic user here. So we do a who am I? Or for privilege escalation, I figured privilege escalation, to be honest with you, is one of the easiest things. If you can get initial shell on each and every machine on the OSCP, you are definitely going to pass because you will get privilege escalation on at least 2 of them. Getting initial access is the hardest. Privilege escalation, there's so many. There's like, you can count how many common privilege escalations, and the privilege escalation tools will show you how to get it done if you look at the results. I never had problems with privilege escalation. It's only finding initial access that really got me. So right here, what am I looking for when I ran the wmi/o? I'm looking at, okay, what can I do? First, I'm looking at the groups that I belong to. I don't belong to any administrator groups or anything like that up here. I'm part of the built-in users. But there's simple things you need to look for. And that's why for the first machine that I created, I didn't want to put something super complicated here. In fact, I also wanted to highlight that, by the way, set impersonate comes enabled by default in Windows 10. I didn't set this one up. It just, I literally ran wmi/o and I saw that it's enabled. Then I was like, good enough. People who figured out this is how you're going to enumerate, privilege escalate. Set impersonate is enabled. You can go, if you have done any privilege escalation courses, it will tell you, like, you look at all these here, whether you can set up tokens or not. In this case, we have set impersonate. If you caught your shell using MS of Venom, you can even try an exploit suggester, which I'm not a big fan of because it takes away from my learning. And it will show you, hey, you do have set impersonate enabled here. So how do we become administrator from this IIS user using this set impersonate here? Or it's a very simple thing. I'll just share with you from Hectrix. You can use Juicy Potato. So I haven't spoken to the creator of this site, but this site saved my, I was going to say something. It really saved me. This site here, for whatever reason, whoever put it together did a really good job. So here is Juicy Potato. Everybody knows this. Anybody who has prepared for the OSCP has at some point ran into this, or if we have played on Hack the Box. So first, if you wanted to use netcat, this is how you do it, right? You run Juicy Potato with netcat put there, and then run the command netcat. You can get Juicy Potato from this GitHub page, and this will do privilege escalation for you. And it will also explain like what Juicy Potato is and how, or Rotten Potato sometimes, and how that set impersonate works. I'm not super excited about this, but we need to do it anyway to get there. And like I said, privilege escalation, I don't know. A lot of people say it's hard. If you if you do all the try hack me privilege escalation rooms, I believe you will not have the hardest time. Okay, so all you need to do is get Juicy Potato from the GitHub page. It's probably somewhere here. Download that to the victim, and we need to run a command like this using netcat. I don't like netcat because it's 2 steps. I need to bring netcat there. I guess I can do that. Or it will show you other ways you can use it. Okay, let's put rotten potato here. I keep typing clear because I like to clear this, but of course I can't. So cd to the temp directory. If you do it there, it's empty. If it's not there, you can always create a temp. Why did I go to the temp directory? Because most of the time you can write there without problems. This IIS user might not be able to write everywhere on the system. So if you look at these first time and you don't see anything interesting here, you need to bring WinPeas. There's a tool called WinPeas on GitHub. You can look up how to use it. WinPeas will go and find things for you. There are common things like uncoded service path is another one. You can hijack DLLs to get root. They're like, for Windows, actually the good thing is you don't have that many. There's very few things that you can look at. You also need to run a netstat. Is it -A? I always forget this. Yeah, you do need to run netstat -A. And when you run this, what you're looking for is ports that you did not see with your Nmap, but somehow they're still running in here, or ports that you saw that might be running a service, and right here. So right now, as you can see, I don't have, or I do have that MySQL service. Let's try clear screen. Now, my limited shell will not do that. So look at the results of netstat. WinPeas will also do that for you. I mean, yeah, WinPeas will do that for you, but netstat, look for uncoded service path. Look in the, so before I go and do Juicy Potato, let's actually just go and look at things. Look in the program files. Windows is actually not case sensitive. You want to look in the program files. You want to look in here. What you're looking for is, are there any funny looking names that are not common in Windows? Like if they're running some browser, like, you know, Firefox, that's good to know, because you might try to do a password attack on, or at least look for passwords within Firefox or Google Chrome. So look in this, look in here. Are there any funny looking applications that are running, like other applications that are not common in Windows? You should know, like, okay, this is a user installed application. So you need to look in these two here. But also, there's this install backup, which is interesting. And of course, this directory here that you need to check. But for now, let's go to our temp so that we can get Juicy Potato going. TMP. You can also write in the geez, I'm better at this. You can also write in the public users desktop or downloads. So if you need a place to write, you need to know, like, okay, I don't want problems with Windows telling me that I cannot write anyway. So go to the public user in the desktop and start writing there, or in the downloads, or in that namespace. So for now, let's use setutil. Oh, by the way, I do have notes. All right, so here's how you try. This is my cheat sheet for setutil. You will notice that I like to be efficient. I don't want to be bogged down into some silly things like syntax or anything like that. Setutil is a tool that I use to move files, just like the invoke web request. I wanted to show you this because sometimes this might be necessary for you to do. Because what if, you know, PowerShell didn't work? So let's write here with setutil. Instead, I'm going to say shell 2.ps1. I would like to get a second shell here. Of course, I cannot edit from within here. So let's fix it from here. Let's create our command right here so that we don't have to deal with the other one. So I want it to be shell 1, shell 2 maybe. No, actually it's Juicy Potato. exe. Maybe let's name it something like that, so we know it's juicy potato. Then here I need to name it whatever is named in my directory, and this should be your IP address. .146. What is the name of our juicy potato? You need to download it from GitHub. So I'll stop this share for now. I have it here. It's juicypotato.exe. Just go to the GitHub page, download the latest version. So this is what I need to move to my victim machine. So I'll start my HTTP server again, because I'll be stealing it from there. But this time I'll be using setutil. Okay, now we go here. Okay, that's fine. It'll work. All right, so now here's another way to move files, right? setutil.exe will move files from your Windows system. And you notice that I do have in my cheat sheet here, I have what is it called? I have a file transfer section. You need to have multiple ways of moving files, not just setutil, not just a Python simple HTTP server. Sometimes you need to set up an SMB share. Have multiple ways. If one doesn't work, you just jump to the next one. And these things, you should be on autopilot. You should just know how to move files without thinking. If you find yourself stressing over moving a simple file, you're going to spend a ton of time in the exam. Instead of fixing the actual exploits, you will be bogged down like trying to get how to move a file command to work. That I think is a fundamental thing. Know how to move files, know how to move files fast. This should be second nature to you. You should just be going through just like that. Then you can worry about the actual exploit, which will be giving you a lot of headaches as well. All right, so I'm hosting that there. I just need to go to my machine. Let me run setutil. I hope it works. It doesn't always work, because not every system runs setutil commands. So if I paste here, all right, in this case, setutil succeeded. What am I expecting to see here? I'm expecting to see a file named juicy.exe. And you see it's here. All right, now that we moved the file to the victim, this is the easiest part. You literally have to come and say, okay, it says juicy, and then you can put netcat. I am not going to put netcat because I don't want to move one more file. But you need to find netcat 64 to do that. I'll run the same exact command that I ran on a different port. But I need to find this identifier here for our system, because what happens with Juicy Potato is it will spawn a service on my system. And for Windows 10, you can go to this page here that they linked actually for the CLS. Where are my... I have a cheat sheet for them, so I don't have to search for them here. Let's see. There's probably a link somewhere. Right here. So in the Juicy Potato CLS ID, here are some for Windows 10. So what we can do is we can pick any of these. For whatever reason, I pick on this one. So this needs to replace that value there. So what am I going to do? I'm just going to copy what's here and create my command again. Okay. So we're going to start with here. Let's remove this here because we don't need that. And I have to show you this because this is how things work. You need to create your commands, and I need to know where it ended. Right here. I also need to remove this name here. Mine is named So I'm going to tell it, hey, execute it from here. Is it that or this one in Windows? All right, this CLS here needs to go. I need to replace it with mine for Windows. Then let's go to grab one for Windows. Replace it with that one. Then, of course, after this, you can run netcat to get your reverse shell. You can run any command that you want to get reverse shell. So let's just get our reverse shell the way we have been doing it because it works. Why would I even change it? We already have something that works that we have already done. So I'm going to show you here. We're going to use PowerShell instead of netcat. But if you like netcat, that's the command right there. We're going to use PowerShell instead. And here's the command that we're going to run. So again, let's replace that with our one that works for Windows 10. I want to make sure that it actually works, and that one was in quotes. All this work just make Juicy Potato work. All right. Oh, really? Did I copy the same one? Oh, yeah. So in this case, I'm going to run command.exe, and the command that is going to run is PowerShell Iax Bypass. You have seen this command before. We should be familiar with this. Yeah, you should be familiar with this. Execution policy bypass, and then we go and download shell1.ps1. We only change one thing here because, I mean, it works. Why would you even go with netcat when PowerShell works? If it worked the first time, it should work the second time. So we just need to go and do the same thing in PowerShell. Change the port. So let's go all the way to the bottom. Quit. Let's give it a second. It's spinning now. Come on. All right, so this is spinning. I'll just look here to see if anything is happening. Yes, if you're talking about notes, you need to have your notes yourself. Using other people's notes is a huge disservice for yourself. So I have my notes here. They mean something to me. They will not mean anything to you even if I send them to you. All right, let's insert. So I'm going to reuse the same one because why not? Why is this different? Oh, I'm editing the one in Nishang. I'd like to edit one from here. All right. So the last line, we're just going to put a different port there. I should have maybe tailed this file. So I'm using, I don't want this to be confusing. I use 5544. Let's insert here. For the second one, let's pick a port. 5252. How about that? So we'll catch a shell on 5252. This time when you catch a shell though, it should come back as administrator. So let's start our process again. But this time, we're going to run our command here so that it will go and run Juicy Potato, I mean, in this case, and also execute PowerShell as part of the command. And for that, I'll copy it again. and let's paste it. All right, this is the same command, right? Except this here, this actually is one of the ones from here. It's probably one of these. Then the path, we are running command exe so that you can run PowerShell. There is probably a better way to do this. I was just crafting this myself. I could have just said PowerShell exe here and then just run a command, but this is a surefire way that if I bring command first and if command bring PowerShell, I'm familiar with the syntax, but I could have just done PowerShell directly. But it should execute shell1.ps1. So before I execute, of course, my listener, my server is working. I need to listener 5252. So always remember to start your listeners, because some exploits you have one chance. So if you mess it up, you might have to reset the box or do other things. In this case, we can run it as many times as we want. So there we go. Next time, I will not use any of these default ones. I will actually put something more interesting than Juicy Potato. So it created a process here. It looks like that's good news for Juicy Potato. 200 okay for shell 1. And we got a reverse shell. As always, who am I? Let it be NT authority. No. Of course. NT authority system. At this point, you can take a break, you can breathe, you have owned the system. You can now start going to here, find out what users are there. Sometimes there is no administrator. With the default user, Mickey, and those. You can go and poke around if you want. You can loot. But right now, I need to fix these double extensions. All right, so we own the machine. This machine forces you to follow a basic generic methodology. The biggest thing that you're going to find out is that you will not succeed in the OSCP not because the exploit is hard. It's mostly because you don't know how to read exploit code and you don't know how to fix it when it starts throwing random errors at you. That's one thing. You don't know how to transfer files, do simple tasks efficiently and effectively. And then you struggle with simple things like running setutil to move a file, like setting up a FTP server or a Samba share. You struggle with damn simple things. And if you struggle with those, they're going to chew your time. But if you're efficient on damn simple things, you now need to work on your methodology, right? Okay, what do I look for? And you need to move fast as you do so. I find that you will have a better time if you have especially simple enumeration methodology down, if you have file transfer exploits ready, like knowing that if you run PowerShell and it doesn't work, what do? You go to netcat. If netcat doesn't work, you run regular commands. Those things, to be honest, I think that's what gets most people. It's really not the exploitation part, because once you get the exploit and once you're on the right path, it's literally 10 to 30 minutes and it works. Most of the time it's just fixing it. All right, so here's our flag. Always check FTP anonymous. Don't move on until you check that. Check every running port, banners. If there's a banner there, search the hell out of those banners. Use public exploits. And know how to read those exploits if you get them. If they give you one, you don't need to be an expert in knowing exactly what it's doing. You're looking for where do I modify it? Where can I make changes? If I captured it in GoBuster, for example, am I able to still manipulate this exploit? And if one fails, you move to the next one and you keep enumerating. Then, of course, make sure to check my channel in the community page. I will be posting another machine in a couple of days. This one is going to be harder than this. It's going to be exciting to get in. I found a really fun exploit that we'll be looking at, or a misconfiguration, whatever it is. It's going to be really fun. So always subscribe to this channel and go to the community page. That's where I will be making the announcement in a day or two. I just need to get it tested by somebody else other than me. Make sure that it's not too easy. All right, once we get there, we have another part that I promised you. We need to see. You see, attacking is fun, but in the real world, knowing how to detect attackers is what 99% of employers out there are looking for. They're not looking for people to be attacking their systems every day. You will have a big cybersecurity team, only 1 or 2 people will be the red team, or sometimes maybe less than 10. The rest are defenders, people who look at this stuff. Chances are you will be looking at this stuff. So first, we ran Nmap, and we were intercepting the traffic that we were doing. So here's what we have. Here's all the noise that we generated in the last 2 hours. I just wanted to put a good window here so we can see. Right away, like I showed you earlier, Nmap scripting engine is going to be the biggest one. But here are alerts that are firing from Suricata. Suricata has some default rules. So you can look at all of them here. But here's interesting. PowerShell file request. Do you know if anybody ran PowerShell? We did. So let's see. Let's do a drill down on the PowerShell file request. I'm just looking at some random ones. I have not seen this. You have not seen this. We're all looking at this together. All right. So this, you and I know this already. If you were on the blue team, you would know. So here, we were requesting shell1.ps1. Guess what? It got caught. So the biggest takeaway here is if you're going to be moving files the way I was doing today in someone's network and they have a simple intrusion detection system, they'll be able to tell somebody moved a PowerShell script to this machine. What's up with them? People don't usually just move PowerShell scripts unless if they're administrators. In this case, we got caught moving the file. You can go to the Kibana interface and look at the same alerts, which is, I think, more interesting. You can also use the Discover page here to actually look for the same alerts as well. So I'll refresh both so you get to see that. So that was us moving the file. Which fields are of interest to you? Well, this was a Suricata event, first of all. And here's the message where, in this case, I'm pretty sure it's because of this, the .ps1 extension that we put there. That's how we got caught. Because it's a PowerShell script, it is .ps1. So how could you bypass that? You can encode this in base64. Then it doesn't see .ps1. And you could easily not have triggered this rule. Okay, that was one of the many rules that we triggered. So let's go check them in Security Onion. And here they are. Info executable download. That's the same one, I think. Then this one is complaining about an exe that was downloaded from Windows. I think this was our juicy potato being moved around. And while this is loading, let's search here for things that we already know. Let me see, what can I search for that we already know happened? I actually put some notes here. Okay, let's do something like this. Let's look for network data decoded. This is like what the IDS saw. Let's see if it saw shell2.ps1. I'm searching for the shell that I saw on the other side. I want to see all instances. Why would you do this? You want to do this because what if this attacker was not attacking one machine? Then it will show you all the times this has been ran on a network. So now you know, oh, I have 20 machines where this shell was ran. So if you find an attack on one machine, you want to check the whole environment. In this case, I only have one machine. And here are instances where it appeared. I can do shell 1. And here's shell 1 a couple times as well. Let's do any executables. This will not work in a big environment like running wildcards like this. It'll be a lot of data, but in my environment, it's fine. Any file that ended with .exe, here is a file that we ran, Juicy Potato. And you can tell right away that this is how we detect it, because we're moving Juicy Potato around. All right, so we saw instances where files were being moved by the attacker. We can see the rules here. It thinks that this is a network Trojan, which, I mean, it's Juicy Potato. So yeah, it thinks that way. We can also search for the ports. What was that? 4455? 5544? Let's see instances when that port showed up. And this will give you a timeline of when that happened, and you can make interesting decisions based on this. And then, heck, in this case, since it's a small environment, I can just do that as well. It will give me the same results. Why would you want to be doing this? This is where the money is at. This is how people get paid. People don't get paid to get excited and attack the way we were doing. People get paid to do this stuff here. You might not be doing exactly what I'm doing here, but of course, the idea is you need to get familiar with these events, knowing how they show up here, and when you know how they were generated on the other end, that will make you a better security analyst or incident responder than somebody who just knows what it looks like, but they've never done it themselves. That will make you a better analyst, because you know, oh, that's actually us getting a reverse shell. So let me see the data that decoded here. Oh yeah, there we go. Does this look familiar to what we have done before? Remember when we got in and we ran the who am I? So you can use this as an evidence like, hey, the attacker did indeed gain access to the system as an IAS user, because as you can see, it even has a capture of what you did and what you saw. So at this point, it's game over. We know the attack worked, the attacker succeeded, and now somebody needs to go and unplug this computer from the network, and the investigation needs to proceed, and people need to really figure out what happened in the scope of it. But for now, I think with the limited time that we have, I'll stop here. And if you have any questions, let me know in the comments. I'll start looking at them right now. And it says, do you have the vulnerable machine loaded in EXXI? No, the vulnerable machine is loaded in VirtualBox. But I bet you can convert it to an EXXI machine. You can run Security Onion in EXXI. This one actually has 24 gigs of RAM loaded on it, running on an SSD. If you really like this stuff, please like this video so that YouTube can let other people know. Remember to like, subscribe to my channel. I'll be finishing up the other machine this week. So check out the YouTube community channel for my announcement sometime this week. After a couple people test it for me, this next week's machine is going to be way, way more interesting. The attack vectors are nice. I think you're going to enjoy it. So if you want to target, I'll try to post it way before Thursday so that people have at least 3 days to work on it. So keep an eye on that. And if you want to be notified, just subscribe to the channel. And also remember to like this video. And thanks for all the positive feedback that I'm seeing here. It's really awesome. And of course, I didn't move to the shells directory. Yes, this will be uploaded to YouTube, so you can always watch this later. In fact, you should check the other 3 machines that are like this. The other ones are the 10-point machines. I've created 3 other machines. I only like to create Windows machines because I think pretty much everybody can attack Linux. Windows is, from what I gathered, a lot of people's pain point, especially getting reverse shell in Windows. I'll probably create a Linux machine later, but yeah, this is awesome. Halfway through 36 weeks cybersecurity bootcamp. Yeah. If you want to set up a lab, check out my home lab series here. I use Dell R720s. In fact, it's running in my back right now. I'm in the same room as this thing. You cannot even hear it. That's how good they are. If you get a good one with nice fans. And that's how I run all my labs here. Thanks, everybody, for the feedback. I appreciate it. And good job to King. I cannot say his name. Colin did a fantastic job. He actually cracked that machine first when I posted it on Reddit. And I'm looking forward to giving you another challenge this week. These machines are fun to make. They don't take a long time, actually. I used to be a Windows system administrator, so I use PowerShell to automate the creation of the machines most of the time. And they're actually fun to create because I go and I shop for vulnerabilities and misconfigurations, and I see which ones might be fun and also closely resemble what I saw in the OSCP. It's really cool stuff. All right. So thank you very much for attending tonight. I really appreciate it. I saw a lot of people were here. We had a lot of people more than usual, which is amazing. Make sure to tune in next week, 9 p.m. Central Standard Time. We'll have another machine. We'll attack it again. Of course, next week you will not see an FTP password in there. There's going to be something interesting. So make sure to come back. Otherwise, thanks very much. If you joined halfway, make sure to watch from the beginning. It will be posted immediately on YouTube. Otherwise, I'll see you next week. Thanks.